two types of exceptions might happen during the application running. First type is the expected exceptions, where we try to catch them as much as possible by using try-catch statements or conditions, but still there might be corner cases that we cannot cover all of these scenarios, and this is where the unexpected exceptions happens. And to cover those kind of scenarios and corner cases, Next.js offers a new file naming convention called error. So we can have an error file next to our page, and as soon as an exception happens during the rendering phase, this file will be rendered and showed to the end users instead of that default error page that sometimes we see during the application execution. For example, here I'm on the career page. I try to raise an error on purpose by running this command, throw an error. And as you can see, I see the default error page from the Next.js shows up. And it has some data. You can see there are some title and some calls tag here. These will show only on the dev mode, but if you run on the production, it means if you build the project and run it under prod mode, you won't see this much detail, but this detail would be moved to the server itself. But end user will never see these kind of errors. Later we see how we can investigate more and see the errors and their connection with the client errors. Okay, now I want to replace this error with that error file that we explained. And to do so, I'm in the career next to this file. I create an error file, error.tsx, JS or JSX is fine also. Export default function error page. Sounds good. Then I have to return something. And as soon as I refresh, you can see it's complaining about the client component because it must be a client component. Later I'll explain why. Use client. The idea is because it's going to be rendered and showed on the client in the browser, it should be client. And there's another reason, and that's the reset parameter I will explain in a minute. But for now, as you can see, I could replace the Next.js error with this nice, better UI error page, and it's working fine. Okay, what if I don't have this one? I can, first of all, hoist it up if I move it to another level, to a root level maybe, and still it's going to capture all the errors that happens under different routes. It means that this file is going to grab any kind of error, rendering error that might happen on every route that we have, like shop or career. All right, but also I can have both of them. It means that if I have an error at this page, at this career page, first the sibling error will catch it. If it doesn't able to catch it, it will hoist it up to the upper level error. Also, there's a practice that you can have both of them, and if you want, you can just simply here throw another error. At this time, the parent error will grab the end error. So if I refresh, you could see the same result, because from here I'm raising an error, and this catches that and throws another error that eventually this file, this top level error, will grab. It's good to know that this error function can have some parameters. First parameter is error itself, and the second one is reset, and they have some types. You can find them in the documentation, but I will explain. The reset can be simply a function that we can call, and the first parameter, which is error itself, is of type error, and a type with a property called digest like this, and its type is string. And from here I can get the message and show a proper UI to the end users. Let's try to have it. So here you can see I grab the error.message, and then I have this button for resetting. I will explain in a minute. But as you can see, this message comes from here. When I throw an error, I send a message here, maybe 111, then I can grab it in the message of the error that is raised at this level. And the second parameter here, which is a callable function, I can invoke it. And as soon as I invoke, Next.js tries to re-render the component that had the problem. So let's try it. It's trying to re-render, but since it's always throwing an error, it always shows this message. So let's try to change it in another way. For example, if math.random is bigger than 0.5, then I will throw an error. So see, there's 50% chance of getting that error. Let's refresh it a couple of times. You see, sometimes I see the UI, sometimes I see the error, but now I try to reset. I'm pressing it over and over, and at some point we hit this status that it doesn't throw an error, and it eventually render the actual page for us. Let's try it again. So this time I got the error, I try to reset, and next time I could be able to grab the actual result of that page. But don't forget to use this reset. Your component, or in this case our page, should be a client component. I convert it to client, and I change the default from async function, which is by default, to a simple function, and I commented this one. So in some cases you might want to recover from this error, and to do so the reset function is the way. There's another property here passed to our error page, and this is digest. Let's first try to render it and see what is its content. So I try to show the error.digest, and it's simply a number, you can see, and it resets and generates different numbers for us. And it is kind of a connection, a way to track the error from the server components, from the server and the browser. If I try to log my error on the page, let's try it. I try to log the error and I inspect. Let's clear, let me zoom, and if I refresh, this time that didn't happen. Refresh again. Now we have the error, and if I scroll up, you can see this error here, and it has this digest. Let's keep it for now. What else we have? We have a stack here, which is kind of a vulnerability, because we are sending the whole stack to the clients. And the reason is because we are in the development mode. If I try to build the project and run it on the prod mode, you could see that there will be no stack with this kind of data. It will show me different message and different data here. Let's try. So let's stop the project first. But before doing that, I would like to change some logics here. Instead of showing this error by random, I would like to call an API. And that API comes from my localhost. http localhost 3001. And this actually comes from a server, a simple server that I have already created, and it simply produces an error by random. It's not producing, but by random, it's passing either a JSON to the clients or an HTML to the clients. So sometimes it sends a JSON, sometimes it doesn't. It sends a simple HTML text. It's simply crazy. So we want to use this and call this API from our page. So I call this and I try to wait to make sure that I have called. Then I will put the result to const response equal this, and I have to wait for a JSON. So without getting this response. Now I'm trying to call this API, then I'm expecting a JSON to be there in the response. Let's try it now. I have to run this server first. I will try to run it, and then if I run the project again, npm run dev. So basically what I've done, I replaced the throw error with this API, and this API is sometimes causing errors and sometimes doesn't. If I refresh a couple of times, now you can see that an error happens because I'm sending an HTML to the client, but it's expecting a JSON. Now if I try to build a project, npm run build, okay, we are good. If I refresh, first I have to start npm run start to start the build version of the project. Now it's ready. If I refresh, first time I'm getting the response, the good response from the server. Let me clean. I call it again. It's not calling the API, and the reason is because of the cache probably. Let me clear the cache and run it again. And simply it's not calling our API, and the reason is because of this fetch caches the response. What I have to do, I have to set the cache to no cache. It means it tries to, every time we call this page, it tries to call this API and ignores the cache. This fetch API is part of the Next.js. We will cover it in the upcoming chapters, but for now, just imagine that an easy way to get data from the APIs is by calling this function, this fetch function. Now that I have set the cache to no cache, I can build the project again, npm run build, and then npm run start again. Now I'm expecting whenever I refresh, a fetch happens. I refresh again. It's returning JSON, but at some point I'm expecting the API to return a bad data. good data, no. Now it happened. And as you can see, the error itself is completely changed. And the reason is because of the vulnerability, and prevent vulnerability, they are sending a client friendly or some other type of error message to the clients to not reveal what is actually happened on the server. And you can see that the stack itself is showing that an error just happened. But here's the digest. We are talking about the digest, right? You can see this number ends with 390, and in my server console I see the exact number, but here on the server I can see what is actually happening, and it shows me the call stack, as you can see, and the actual reason of the error. So a syntax error happened because we are trying to parse a text which is not JSON, and this way you can debug your project without having any kind of vulnerability on the client side. And that was it. I hope you got the idea of how to handle unexpected errors that sometimes happens, even though we try our best to catch all the scenarios, all the corner cases that errors might happen, but still there might be some situations that we couldn't cover, and the error files are here to help us catch those kind of errors. So I'll see you in the next ones.